going to go live there now in a second.
It's up already.
There we go. How are we, men? Welcome to the Upper Tier Podcast. This is your live coverage of transfer day, deadline day, I should say, covering all the transfers from now for the final hour of deadline day all the way through. And we're going to be going an extra half an hour as well to discuss all the latest transfers and breaking news as we follow it here from Sky Sports and around the world of football. Joining me as always, my partners on the podcast, our resident referee, who thank God tonight won't have to talk about any VAR issues or anything like that, I'm sure. Mark, how are we?
How's it going, lads? Thanks for having me back on.
Good. Also joining me, my partner on the podcast, who is suited and booted, as we always are for these live YouTube videos. Darren, how are we?
I'm all right, brother. How are you?
Good. Lads, you look great, I have to say.
Cheers, thanks very much.
I didn't know if it was used to or Robson and Jerome when it first came on. Fair play to you.
We were hoping we'd be sponsored by Best. We thought you were going to put in a good word for us.
Wait for the summer transfer window. See what we can do.
Oh, I tell you, big time.
Looking for the linen shorts for the transfer one in the summer.
We'll get them in. We'll get them in for you, lads. The upper tier just on the breast.
That's it. I'm telling you, man.
We definitely got the breasts anyway.
We will fill them properly without a shadow of a doubt.
You've made a right take yourself there.
No, I'll tell you. Absolutely. Man, what have you made so far? Talk to me about the window. What you're thinking on it?
I'll tell you how depressed down my fucking mind I am, is it?
You can do that if you want, whatever suits.
It's always going to be a quiet one for us, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah, but listen, quiet's one thing, but this is... Jesus, I don't know whether we're doing ourselves more damage than good at this stage, you know? We've really opened the floodgates to allow lads to leave, have we? And obviously, with what's gone on in the last kind of 48 hours with Greenwood as well, you know, it's another body will probably be down for the foreseeable future. And I think it's a brave, you know, step to say we're going to hang on till the summer, till the new manager comes in, and we're going to back him fully in the market and stuff like that. But Jesus, I look at the squad now and I kind of think we could deal with a couple of reinforcements, you know, certainly in that centre field.
And looking at it, Darren, as well, I think he has no choice but to look now in the new year, if we get a few injuries, at the likes of Shortire, Alanya, who obviously has done really well in the last few games. But he has to do that now because we got no one else in, like, you know.
I mean, there's the boy, you know, we've got the boy Hannibal. From the African Cup of Nations, where he didn't actually play a whole lot for Tunisia. Played in the first game and didn't play an awful lot throughout the rest of the competition. You'd be hoping maybe he gets minutes, and after that you're down to maybe Charlie Savage and the boys at Iqbal, who made his debut last week for Iraq, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the game with Iran. But yeah, listen, we're leaving ourselves very short in a key area, an area that we've been short on. We've been short there in general. Now looks even tighter, you know.
No, I think for Hannibal and stuff like that, it was just a good experience for them to go over and play in the African nations, even if it was limited. It's that experience that they're going to bring back now to Carrington, and hopefully they can build on that. But I think with the Lingard thing, it's definitely, you know, with Martial gone, and obviously with the situation that unfolded over the last 48 hours, like you said, we don't have a choice. And I think if Lingard had his choice, he would have went to West Ham. But I think Ralph kind of said no to that. Newcastle, obviously, you know, he would have preferred him going to Newcastle, but as a player, he didn't want that, because you could see him tweeting the photos on Twitter the last few days of him in the West Ham jersey and stuff like that, you know. So I just think it's a sensible thing to do, to keep him, like you say, for just extra bodies in the squad, if that, you know.
Yeah, look, I mean, you can completely understand why we don't make one of our rivals stronger, you know, especially going for space. But it's sad to think, you know, he'll walk out in the summer and there'll be no fee at all, unless something crazy happens between now and then, and you know, maybe there's a new manager that's coming in and he kind of says, listen, you're in me plans. But I think at this stage, if you're Jesse Lingard, you've just got to break free of those shackles of Manchester United.
Yeah, big time.
Put yourself out there, and you know, if you've any if you've any ambitions to get involved in the World Cup with England and stuff like that, he needs to be playing game in, game out. Because there's too many good players in that Premier League, too many good young English players, you know, Foldens and Grealish, and, you know, Ward-Prowse. You're fighting for positions all over the pitch. And if he doesn't play games, he just won't get a look in.
And what do you think, Darren, as well? I thought with Ralph coming in that Lingard would have gotten more minutes under his belt. Would you have thought the same as well, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that high energy that he brings to the game, you know. I know at times, like we've spoken about, you know, how he maybe hasn't shown the quality in a United jersey. But I mean, I don't think we can argue about, you know, the lad's engine and his work rate and stuff. That's always second to none. Yeah. And you saw that West Ham when they were playing on the bounce like that. He was involved in absolutely everything went through him. He was attracting 2 and 3 defenders every time he got the ball, which was space all over the park. It's exactly what United need. And hopefully he gets a decent run between now and the end of the season. But like you said, it's hard to know. I think Ralph has already kind of picked his favourites, hasn't he?
Yeah, you can see that.
I mean, if everybody's fit, we can name the team now, you know. But yeah, we're going to probably have to use a couple of players outside of that first 11 between now and the end of the season. We got FA Cup games, we got Champions League games, and obviously fighting for that fourth spot as well. So, you know, it's prudent to trim the squad like that much, I don't think.
Yeah, no, and I think with Lingard, he does give you that Premier League experience. You know, when it gets down to the likes of April and May, down to the nitty gritty, something that Van de Beek probably hasn't got. I think that will kind of come into play as well. And like, don't forget, we are going to pick up injuries between now and May. So, and like you said, with the Champions League and the FA Cup, I think it's a shrewd thing keeping him, even though obviously he wanted to go elsewhere to West Ham. But
if he contributes to us getting fourth spot and then walks away, you know, the 10 million we were going to get from him looks like chicken feed, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but it's a big gamble.
Big time.
It's a big gamble, you know. But listen, to be honest, if you're Jesse Lingard, you probably don't want to go to Newcastle. You want to go to West Ham. But if you're United, he can't go to West Ham. He can only go to Newcastle.
Absolutely.
It's up between a rock and a hard place and doing what's right for the squad, you know?
Yeah.
What's your thinking, man, on Ralph at this stage in terms of, I mean, incoming signings? I mean, you were heavily linked with Zakaria, Hedera, and what was the other guy's name? Zakaria, Hedaria's the guy who was an unusual one there. I thought you would have landed him, especially with the links there with Leipzig with Ralph.
He's been away though, hasn't he? The AFCON, so
AFCON,
that's a tough one to do as well. Yeah. And listen, there's links made here, there, and everywhere. The real thing is, for me, it didn't look like there was any appetite from the United board to do business in this month. So being linked with people it's neither here nor there really. We're Manchester United, we're always going to be linked with people. But I think them being rock solid options for us and opportunities to get in, I think that's a different story altogether. I'm not surprised it's gone like this, to be honest with you. I think for too long, and we've spoken about it previously, I think for too long, the board have given managers what that particular manager wanted, and they backed them to us in a certain way. Whereas I feel like now with maybe Ralph coming in, they're going to try and get involved in playing a certain brand of football, and they're going to buy players for the system rather than buying players to just suit the manager and say, well, I want this guy and I want it, that type of thing. So that's something I've spoken about previously, and I'd be all for that if I'm honest. Picking up guys, like we look at what Liverpool did when they put their squad together. I don't think any of us thought when Andy Robertson left Hull, he was going to turn into the player he has. I don't think we thought Sadio Mane was going to turn into the player he has. I don't think we thought Mo Salah was going to. We all expected them to do well at Liverpool and to be good signings, because they'd proven it maybe, to a degree elsewhere, but not to the level. And that's where the manager comes into it. That's where, you're buying into a project like that with a manager that is going to make the players you have and the players you bring in better players, rather than just feeling like you've got to go out and buy the best player in the world in this position. They did that as well. They did that with Van Dijk and they did that with Alisson, but they did that after the squad had been moulded and after, they had a playing style and stuff like that. When a lot of the pillars were in the ground, he looked around and then he said, you know what, we're 2 bits short here for this piece, this puzzle. He went, we need a centre back and we need a goalkeeper. And if he's get me them, I think I can get something out of this. The board backed him. He went out and got Van Dijk. He went and got Alisson. and the rest, as they say, is history. He's got a Champions League and a Premier League in the last couple of years, and been beaten on the highest points total as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, it's a good point, and like, you don't want to be too reactionary either in terms of bringing in the wrong people and stuff like that, and then it creates another headache further down the line.
This is what happened with United.
Yeah, I'm just not sure in terms of, I mean, some of the stuff that's being said insofar as that, like, they weren't going to get Ralph to bring players in or something like that because, you know, there's a new manager obviously potentially coming in June or whatever it is, and they didn't want to bring in players that potentially that new manager wouldn't want. But the thing about it is, I mean, this is the guy who's moving upstairs, who's going to be heavily involved in the structure of this whole player thing going forward as well. So you would think he'd have a fair idea after assessing the squad for this length of time and the trouble he's had and the difficulties he's had and all that kind of stuff in his first say. I don't know, what's he there now, about 8-10 weeks at this stage? And trying to figure out, I mean, I think he has a fair idea of what United require and what they need. And based on his previous experience, you would think out in the market there, he'd have a good idea of what may or may not suit. The fear for me, and I spoke to Darren about it today, is that they didn't bring anyone in and they left themselves a little bit short. And more often than not, you've seen it before, what happens is a team turns around and goes and loans out players or sells off players. And then all of a sudden, where they thought they have cover, suddenly you get an injury. And then boom, you're caught out, you know. And we know about it. We got caught out because we didn't bring in a centre half last season, and we got caught out with the injuries, you know, with no cover.
It's tough in this window, though, as well, lads. I don't know what you think, because there might be a certain player after and you can't get. So then do you panic, boy? You know, that's a way. Obviously, Ralph has in his head a long-term project in his head because he's going upstairs. So he's thinking the next 12 to 18 months. You know, let's look at the bigger picture. Do you sacrifice bringing no one in now and then say in the summer get like the Declan Rice or someone like that? You know, that's a way. So it's obviously disappointing when you don't get players in, but there has to be a long-term thing in his head that will make sense to us. I know it's frustrating for us as fans when you don't get players in, but it will make sense in the long run, you know?
Oh, I think you're right, Mark. I think this is short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's prudent for us to stop and take a breath and go, okay, let's really reassess this. Let's have a look. If we're to believe some of the messages coming out of Old Trafford, you know, there's quite a number in that squad who Ralph is telling the board, these guys aren't good enough.
Yeah.
And maybe he's given them the opportunity to either, you know, prove themselves or to prove that he was right in these last kind of, you know, 10, 12, 14 games. Because I know we're talking about even just the fullback positions. The talk is that he maybe doesn't fancy any of the four we have at the minute, between Dalot, Wan-Bissaka and Shaw and Telles. Like, getting four guys like that off your books and then getting four in to replace them is a massive job. That's not something you'll even do in one window. Yeah. If you were able to get rid of Wan-Bissaka and Shaw in a window and then add to Telles and Dalot, that would be a massive success. But, you know, is that even the right way to go about things? Like, you know, I know a lot of United fans think Shaw is a really, really good player and has really done well at United. I know a lot of guys then also think he never lived up to the hype that we bought him for and stuff like that. Yeah. So again, it can be polarizing like that. And I think with Ralph, he's just kind of saying, listen, we need to just step away from this here. We've thrown money at this, or the board has thrown money at this a number of times, and it hasn't got us any further down the track. Let me see what I can do with the guys that are here. Let me see, you know, who can become a better player in the next 14 games. And then who can I recommend to the next guy in charge or down the line and say, well, you know what, I feel like this guy is a better option for you, because in the last, you know, 18 league games, 19 league games, when I asked him to do A, B, and C, he was able to get all of A, all of B, and a bit of C, which means he's getting there.
Yeah,
you know, your problem is you just buy someone else, it just shuffles someone else down the pack, and with more money embedded in that squad, which we know is floundering.
Exactly. And you look at Alanya coming in. Obviously, he scored that goal against Wolves the last game of the season, and I've been watching on MUTV. He's the type of player you look at and go, sure, like he's like having a £30 million player in the squad already, you know. So hopefully, like I said, he'll get more minutes now. After the window closes the next few weeks, we've obviously Middlesbrough on Friday. We can obviously see him starting against them. But like I said, it's those little kind of diamonds in the rough that we have there that I think will get us over the line this season, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a real opportunity now for those boys, isn't it? Alanga finds himself in an amazing opportunity now that he would have never thought he would have been in with these players that have gone now, and the way the squad is a little bit threadbare and stuff like that. And you could really see him now really, really flourish.
Absolutely. We're going back to the
and he's
DNA.
been really good. He's been really good already after coming in, so pretty good. Let's talk about other signings, first of all, before we get bogged down a bit too much in United. Morris is going to be joining us from Cheap Productions podcast to discuss Arsenal. He has plenty to say about Arsenal, as most people do. Darren, Aston Villa have done some very, very shrewd business in the window, and a lot of it they got done fairly early. Coutinho coming in, Digne coming in, Callum Chambers coming in. That was a real one out of nowhere, wasn't it? That just kind of, and then there was obviously talk of Luis Suarez potentially coming in, but that was shut down pretty quick. And they obviously unloaded a few players as well. Obviously, El Ghazi went the other way on the part of the Digne deal on loan to Everton and stuff like that. But Gerrard's shown a bit of shrewdness in terms of the market, hasn't he? He's moved quickly.
Yeah, he's gone straight in there, hasn't he? And he's obviously had a look in training. He's decided what works for him and what doesn't work for him, and where he's needed to make changes. Like I heard talk earlier on. There's a lot of Aston Villa fans very, very unhappy with the idea of Matt Targett being loaned out. He's done quite a good job at Aston Villa since he came in from Southampton. But I think if you're Steven Gerrard and you get opportunities to make signings like Luca Digne and like Philip Coutinho, if you're serious about this project and if you're serious about taking Aston Villa to the next level, and you look at Matt Targett and you look at Luca Digne, there's only one winner there really. Luca Digne has been superb in the Premier League over the last number of years at Everton, probably the standout player, with the likes of Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin when he's been fit. Really, really solid left back. He's involved in that French national side. Super cross for the ball. Creates chances down the left hand side. He has an eye for goal. Scores a free kick. I think it's a really, really good signing for Aston Villa. I really do. And I think getting Coutinho in could be a real stroke of genius. How many people looked at him and hemmed and hawed and didn't pull the trigger, but obviously Stevie knew what he had in Coutinho, because obviously he spent that time together with him at Liverpool, and he knew we could get a tune out of him. And from what we've seen so far, I don't think we can say he's wrong either.
No, not at all. Mark, thoughts on Villa?
Yeah, I think obviously Gerrard's gone in, and we know how ruthless he can be as well. But the type of player that he can attract is going to turn them around. Like, they had a decent enough squad there already. Obviously Dean Smith assembled a decent squad. I think he was unlucky the run of results that they got that time for him to get the sack. But I think, even during the summer now, I think they'll be very kind of active in the market as well, because I know probably Stevie has 3 or 4 players in mind that he'll want to bring in over the summer as well. And obviously, if they can get into Europe this season, like, it'd be great for them. And another thing as well, you look at it, I think he's turned Tyrone Mings into a defender. If you've seen him, he's been solid enough the last few games as well. So I think he's doing a really great job there,
Darren would definitely chalk that down to his boy Conce. Go on, Darren. I thought I'd beat you.
Beside him, yeah.
100%.
I do like the boy Conce, I have to say. But I also think, like, Mings at times for me has looked very, very good at Villa for the last number of years. He's kind of in that Harry Maguire mould. He's that big, awkward centre back. Yeah. But to be honest with you, like, when we were looking at paying 80 million for Harry Maguire, Mings at maybe 20 to 30 looked a really good option.
Snippet, yeah.
I don't think the margin between the two lads is big enough to warrant that much of a gap in the transfer fee. And I mean, what he's done is Stevie's gone in there and he's obviously gone back to basics with Mings and stuff like that. And he's obviously shown him clips of what he previously done and gone, listen, this is what you're capable of, pal. It's all about feeling confident again and getting whatever's in your head out of your head. And now you don't know what sometimes goes on off the pitch with players as well, and that can affect form and stuff like that. But he has looked back to his best, and they've got one of the best goalkeepers in the league as well, Emiliano Martinez.
Yeah.
So when you have a couple of good defenders in front of a keeper like that, and even the boy Douglas Luiz, who I rate as a defensive midfielder, they're going to be tight enough at the back, Villa, and then going forward with Coutinho, Ings, Buendia, Ollie Watkins, the boy Jacob Ramsey and stuff like that. There's a lot of talent in there at that Villa team, and I think Stevie just has them feeling, that little extra inch taller, that little bit stronger. I think they just mentally, they feel like they're in a better place, even. You know what I mean? And that's all it takes sometimes.
Yeah, I think once you're bringing in a player of the quality of Coutinho and stuff like that, it makes an absolute huge difference to the squad as well, because if you have Ollie Watkins there and Danny Ings and they're looking behind them, they're saying we Philip Coutinho here, you know what I mean? It would drive their confidence up greatly as well, so yeah, absolutely. Wanted to touch on Everton. Everton has been an interesting one over the last few days. It looked like kind of nothing was really going to happen. They'd lost Dina, they'd bought in El Ghazi, but that was kind of really where it was at. Roberto Martinez had been linked with the job, but I don't think that was ever the case. I don't think that was going to happen because, the uproar about that was never going to happen. So they went with Frank Lampard. Frank's gone in, and he's brought in Donny van de Beek on loan from United, and he's also brought in this evening Dele Alli on a permanent move. But also going out, obviously, Lucas Digne went out to Aston Villa as part of that El Ghazi move, I'd imagine. And Ellis Sims as well has gone out on loan to Hearts. Darren, thoughts on Everton?
Yeah, so it's been a busy enough window for Everton. We don't necessarily think is Everton a very busy club in January, but it's 5 I can count at the minute, because obviously you've had the boy Michaelenko who came in as left back, the boy Nathan Patterson came in from Everton or from Rangers. El Ghazi will come in, and then Donny van de Beek and Dele Alli. I know just before the window kicked off, they got rid of their sporting director, Marcel Brands, who was involved in a lot of the transfer dealings for them. And I don't know, I'm looking at the window from them at the minute, and I'm kind of thinking, did you improve the squad massively, or did you just pad it out? I love the idea of the boy Patterson. I think he's a really good footballer. I think he's a boy for the next 6 to 8 years, provided they can hold on to him when he really hits the straps. Because if you're paying that kind of money for a kid that's got 2 appearances at Rangers, he's obviously going to be a serious footballer. All things being equal, and then going forward, I think that the El Ghazi one was it was a sort of a strange one for me. I know it was talked about that it might have been tied into the deal for Luca Digne, obviously, but they have a lot of similar kind of players to El Ghazi. They've got the likes of Alex Iwobi and Anthony Gordon, who are those kind of forwards that like to play on the wing and tuck inside and stuff like that. It was just a bit of a strange one for me. And then when we spoke about Everton, obviously, Donny should be a good signing for Everton. I'm not sure where he quite fits into the equation and into the setup. And Dele Alli's a real shot in the dark, I have to be honest. Again, we know how good Ali's been over the last few years at Spurs, but the decline has happened rapidly, hasn't it? Since he made his debut on Amazon in that documentary, things have hit the skids. Yeah. And I don't know. He's a bit of a sinking ship at the minute, Dele Alli, and if he doesn't stop this, if he doesn't stop the merry-go-round and get off pretty soon, this Premier League career is going to be finished.
Well, speaking of Amazon documentaries, the timing couldn't be any better. Morris is joining us. Morris, how are you from GP Productions podcast?
Not too bad, lads.
Arsenal fan, a gooner to say the least.
We found one.
We found one. We found one. We found brave enough to come on tonight, not just one.
I don't show up very often, but when I do, it's always bad news anyway.
Oh, I tell you, I don't know.
Morris live from Barcelona Airport.
That's it. Morris, talk to us about Arsenal. You have to talk to us about Arsenal.
I don't know. It's not surprising, really, is it? when you look at anyone that's going to have a joke of a transfer window, like we pop up and we give like our best player away for nothing to Barcelona. Kind of sums everything up, doesn't it?
We were talking about it though, Morris, before we came on air, myself and Darren there. Like, he's still had 18 months on his contract. You're going to save 25 million by getting him off the wage bill. The only problem I'd have as an Arsenal fan would be not getting someone in, having someone in mind like the striker to get in as a replacement, knowing that this was going to happen at the start of the month, knowing that, you know.
Yeah, where's the 25 million gonna go though? Like, if they had known, they knew they were trying to get rid of him. Like, they should have had someone. And now you have, like, you're left with Eddie and Nketiah and Lacazette up front, and both of them make fucking Anthony Martial look like a prolific striker. Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, and you have all the tools around them. You have your Saka, you have your Martinelli, Odegaard, Smith Rowe. You just need that target man up there, you know?
Yeah, but that's why, like, I don't know what happened with the whole Aubameyang thing. Like, obviously there's more to it, and we might get in the documentary. But to leave a player out like that and leave yourself with those two lads, I don't think it's acceptable, really.
I think, I suppose, from a club point of view, Morris, I mean, they did go out there and throw the money on the table for Vlahovic, didn't they? But they just couldn't land him. I mean, the draw to Juve, if you're in Serie A, is huge. And he obviously didn't fancy Arsenal, possibly in the current climate where Arsenal are at the moment. But they did show intent. They did go out. They did try to negotiate a deal. They threw the money on the table and they tried to sign him. Unfortunately, didn't get him. But I suppose the problem is there wasn't much of a backup plan. Is that the problem there?
Yeah, I heard him talking about Calvert-Lewin, and I actually think he'd be a decent player for us, kind of like more of an aerial threat in the box. I think it was the last game we put like 26 crosses into the box, and there's nobody there to head it in. All small guys running in, like Odegaard, and even Lacazette. Like, he's got a good header on him, but he's just not clinical at all.
Yeah, you were on to me earlier. You let me know about you have made one signing. And
we actually made two. We signed a goalkeeper from Kroenke's club as well in America.
Oh, okay. They've been signing a few players from Kroenke's club in the States. There was kind of an irony when I looked at the first guy. His name is Austin Trusty.
Yeah.
There's an irony in the surname, really, isn't there, when you think about it?
He sounds like a wrestler, doesn't he?
Yeah. He sounds like the last player you'd be signing is a guy with the name Trust in his name.
Yeah. He's another guy we can bring in now and loan out next season with fucking 20 other guys and leave ourselves short. Like, I was looking at our squad earlier, like on the Premier League squad, and this is how bad it is. There's like 4 or 5 players there that don't even have a photo. Do you know what I mean? On the official Premier League website. And that's what you want to get the top 4 with. Forget about it. But
that's good also because they're ugly bastards. Don't forget that. So let's
they might be. They indeed might be, but they just seem like a load of 18-year-olds, I think, English guys or whatever.
Phil Jones doesn't have a picture in the United one either, but that's only because he's a hammerhead.
And Morris, if it's any consolation, Niall doesn't have a picture of us on the upper tier website or anything. So
for obvious reasons. For obvious reasons.
You, Marky.
I think you're all handsome, marketable gentlemen. I think you should have your photo up there.
Thanks very much. There's our new marketing manager for the upper tier. Happy days.
Cheers. Get a few more then with you, Morris.
Just going to have the one tonight.
Great. Morris, talk to me about the other outgoings. I mean, Callum Chambers came out of nowhere, didn't he?
Yeah, and like, I know you seen the game a couple of weeks ago at Anfield, and he was actually our best player that night. And he's kind of left himself short there at right back now as well. Because he has Cedric Suarez there, but he's been terrible since he came to Arsenal as well. So Callum Chambers, a handy player, can play in midfield. He was player of the season when he went to Fulham. I know they got relegated, but he still played okay in a kind of an average team. And yeah, we're just completely short. Like Pablo Mari, never really done it for Arsenal, but still, when a few injuries kick in, and they will kick in coming into March and April, I don't know what they're going to do. Well, I'd be looking at guys like Guendouzi that went out, and he's doing great stuff over at Marseille there as well.
Marseille, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he's in the French squad, and that's a very difficult squad to get into. But him and the manager seem to have a problem as well. So he seems to have, I don't know if it's him or is it the players. It's like players with attitudes. Like, people say Man United need that kind of character to go in there and get all those bad eggs out of that dressing room as well. And Arteta gets a lot of plaudits for doing it, but it's hard to know what really is going on. Like, the same thing, I know Ozil was leaving at that time and he needed to be shifted on anyway. But there seems to be a lot of clashing going on since the manager came in with different players. And I'm just wondering, I don't know, even Lucas Torreira, he's a good player as well. Like, he's better. Like, than what we have. Like we started a Forest Cup game there a couple of weeks ago with Lakonga and Charlie Patino, an 18-year-old English lad who might be good in the future. Like, but I just think we left ourselves too short. Like,
they're talking about Charlie being a big time Charlie, though, aren't they? Like this
yeah,
kid's really spoken about in in the upper echelons of football at the minute for a guy who's got so little experience under his belt. Like
yeah,
they're really talking about this guy being the future of Arsenal.
yeah, they're kind of bigging him up. I think like the internal journalists there that every club has, and they write about these players and they say how great they are. And yeah, it's hard to know. Like, there's a lot of pressure on. I think he's only 18, so definitely not one for this season anyway.
Yeah, it'd certainly be a lot for him to try and shoulder a top 4 race, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, the top 4 is finished now. I'd say 7th or 8th at best. I'd say now after this, we're just too short. And there's an opportunity there because we were playing decently enough, but even in the last few games, like even from say late October to now, we're not scoring enough goals. We're getting 1, maybe 2 a game or 0, but we haven't been hitting the 3s or 4s.
If you have a striker, the day you got the draw with Burnley, if you have a decent striker that day, you win the game.
Yeah, Lacazette missed a sitter that day as well.
And even the game against Forest in the FA Cup.
Yeah,
those
I think it was
the games.
Nketiah, I think as well that day missed a sitter, and he missed a sitter against Everton as well when we lost that game to them. And that was the only game they've won in 10 or 11 was it before Benitez went?
Yeah, I think when I looked at the Forest game though, they kind of bullied us, didn't they?
Yeah. That's the way. That's always the way to get at Arsenal, though. Physicality,
Asher, I know.
You know all too well.
Talk to us, Morris, about the rest of the window. What have you made of the rest of the window so far in terms of other teams and stuff like that? You see United not doing a huge amount, moving a few players out, obviously, to structure themselves in such a way to potentially, I think United will have a huge summer without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
But also you see the likes of City there going in and buying Julian Alvarez and then loaning them back out to River Plate. So they're doing their business early, if you like, from the summer, similar to ourselves with Luis Diaz. And it's unusual that the top 2 clubs in the league at the moment are doing a little bit of business, where the teams underneath them who need to be doing a bit of business don't seem to be doing it. They seem to be doing business the other way rather than incomes.
Didn't Burnley go out today and get some 6'4" striker in? I heard about him. Yeah,
6'7" apparently.
6'7". Wow,
Yeah.
He's going to be perfect for them. I can't wait to see this guy. And I thought from Man United's end of things, so I thought Lingard would get a move, but there seemed to be, I don't know, was it the wages stumbling block on that one as well?
I don't think it was United who blocked it, wasn't it? It wasn't Newcastle.
Oh.
Yeah, United blocked it. And then there was loads of talk coming out this evening that it was bad blood over the Sean Longstaff deal and all this. I don't think that was the case.
No, I think, and we just spoke about it maybe earlier on, was Jesse maybe didn't want to go to Newcastle, wanted to go to West Ham, but United weren't going to make one of their competitors stronger.
Yeah.
Jesse said, "You're all right. I don't fancy heading to Newcastle for the next 6 months. I'll hang out at the end of the season. I'll take my money here and I'll pick where I want to go in the summer."
Yeah.
Imagine like in a world we're in now, like Man United and fucking West Ham are the opposition. We can't be loaning players out to West Ham, and it'd be the same for Arsenal as well.
Yeah,
fucking sad times.
Absolutely.
I loved them. They interviewed, I think, a Newcastle fan at St. James's earlier this evening, and he was saying they were asking about the Lingard deal, and he was saying, United are still just bitter over Shearer. I thought that was hilarious. I was going, Jesus, mate, you're going way back there, aren't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting. What else? Let's see. Chelsea. Why don't we have a chat about Chelsea for a few minutes, I suppose. Haven't brought anyone in, but they're really trying to push Usman and then that's the line. Darren, what's your thoughts on that one? Is he the player they should be bringing in?
I can see why they might try and bring him in. I don't necessarily think he's, the right fit, but again, I think Chelsea are kind of looking at the squad that they have, be it the guys that are still at Stamford Bridge and the loan players that they have out, which we know is extensive. And they're probably thinking we need to get an awful lot of these guys off the books, because there's players at Chelsea for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years who haven't played a game. I heard earlier on, Kennedy came back from Brazil they took him back off his loan, only to loan him back out again because they had brought him back in the hope to fill the left wing back slot vacated by Ben Chilwell. He was going to play there and maybe share the games with Marcus Alonso. And after Thomas Tuchel seeing him, he said, "No, this isn't going to work. We can loan him back out again." You know, like that's also not what football's about. You know, and this is something I know the FIFA and UEFA and stuff like this are talking about this, but there's got to be something done about this. Having so many players on your books, which it almost becomes a spoiler for other teams, where you know you're signing somebody and you're burying them in your reserves because it means that they can't make your opposition any stronger to a degree. I think the Dembele thing, back to your original question, was I think if I was Dembele and I was going to Chelsea, I think it's an attractive prospect going back in under Thomas Tuchel and stuff like that, who, let's be honest, he's played his best football under. But the bigger issue from Dembele is staying fit. I mean, we've had 2 years here of Dembele not managing to string together any more than 6 games, and then failing to find his better form when he did have games because he hasn't had the run of them that he needed. So it is a little bit of a shot in the dark from Chelsea, but I can certainly see why they try it. You know, and they've tried worse recently. Look at the Sol deal; that's obviously gone really, really badly for Chelsea. Roll the dice again, see what comes up this time. It's not going to hurt them. It's only a part of his wages they're paying, I think, if I'm right. You know, it's a percentage, so it's not too much.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an interesting one for me, Mark, as well, because we know with Thomas Tuchel at the moment, he has faced so many issues between, you know, the virus, injuries. I mean, he lost his two wing backs, which were outstanding in Reece James and Chilwell. And like on top of that, then you had all the Lukaku stuff, you had the dip in form, you have all the back line is negotiating contracts, some want in, some want out, there's talk of players going. So he's had a kind of a tidal wave of stuff to deal with. And I was kind of thinking today, you know, Ousmane Dembele goes in there, he's going into a much harder league. This is a guy who hasn't been able to stay fit in a much softer league in La Liga. And he's going to go in there, and I could see a situation within a month where he gets broke up and he's on the medical table. And it's just another problem for Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah, no. And the other question I'd have, is he more trouble than he's worth? You know, you heard all these stories coming out of Barcelona. He wouldn't show up for training. He wouldn't have an excuse, you know. Does Tuchel need that kind of headache, you know, that type of way? And I agree with you as well. You see Ziyech came in. I really like him, but he's been blighted with a few injuries since he came in. He's done really well over the last 2 or 3 games as well. Scored that great goal against Spurs. But for me, I think it'd be a big risk to bring Dembele in at this stage. But like Darren was saying, they've, you know, how many it could be good to have in as cover, you know, the squad with the COVID and injuries and stuff like that. So for me, I wouldn't fancy having him in there, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting one. Morris, let's talk about your rivals in North London. Let's talk about Tottenham. They kind of had to make a few moves in the market, didn't they? Or else they'd be probably looking for a new manager sooner rather than later, the way things were going. But they've moved out some interesting players as well. I mean, obviously Dele Alli's gone to Everton. Ndombele looks like he's going to go on loan to Lyon. That's the way he's going back there again. Brian Hill's gone to Valencia on loan, and Giovanni Lo Celso to Villarreal, which really strengthens Villarreal. I like the boy Lo Celso. But they've also brought in from Juve, they've brought in Bentancur, and they've also brought in Kulishevsky. I think that's how you pronounce it in my best speech. What have you thought about your neighbours?
I think that he still wants more players than he's getting. I'd say there's a lot of kind of negotiating going on there behind the scenes. And the interesting thing about his name's after escaping me, the manager.
Conte.
Just blank there. The interesting thing about him was he only signed an 18-month deal. So like 6 months of that is nearly up. So come the summer, I think if he's not getting what he wants, he's going to be out of there. And I think like it's not a long-term project for him anyway, because if you sign an 18-month deal now, I know Daniel Levy, shrewd businessman, was thinking, right, if this goes wrong, we can pull the trigger on him and we won't have to pay him off big money like we did with Jose and Pochettino. Yeah. So I'd say, I don't know. See, they haven't got the best out of Harry Kane yet this season either since he came in. I think Kane is 3 or 4 league goals is all.
Something around that. Wouldn't be much more. Yeah, pretty much close.
I think it's about 4.
About 4, yeah. I was one off.
Standing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as far as that push for the top 4 goes, I think like they're going to win games. They're going to win tight games, I think, because they have a good manager there. And like, I think they have a bigger shout as anyone of finishing fourth, if not third, even, because I wouldn't be so sure on Chelsea with the striker situation there. Like, Werner is not clinical. Lukaku, you know, with all that stuff that went on a couple of months ago, it's very hard to know.
Yeah, interesting. Darren, thoughts on Spurs?
Yeah, I think like the two boys they've gotten in are two really good signings, if I'm honest, but I still think they're miles away from what they need. You know, I think if you're going to go out and play that formation that we know Conte's going to play with the wing backs, you need two wing backs starting off, don't you? Really, like Reguilon will do the job on the left hand side when he's fit, but on the right hand side, I mean, they're really struggling there. Like, if you're struggling that badly for a right wing back that you're considering Adama Traore, you're really starting to run out of ideas. You know, and I think that was one of the main reasons why maybe Adama didn't end up at Spurs, because he looked at this and went, I'm going to be playing, you know, as a right wing back. That means me getting up, down, and I'm going to have this absolute head case Italian, you know, chewing the ear at me if it's not going well. I'll head to Spain. I'll get a bit of sun on these big, nice, chunky toys and calves I have. I'll get back into the red and blue, the Lagrana, and see how it goes for me, you know. Like, that's the Kulusevski kid is a super footballer, a really super footballer. Is he any different than maybe Lucas Moura? Not very. You know, he does provide extra cover there because obviously Son's been out a little bit. You might be able to play him on the left hand side and get him to tuck in, or play him on the left and maybe get him to go wide. But there is, you know, there's still so much missing from that spine of Spurs. They're short at centre back. They're short at centre midfield. And they're front. You know, Baron Harry hitting a purple patch, which at the minute doesn't look like it's happening, because he doesn't look like he's enjoying himself, and he doesn't look like he wants to be there.
Yeah. Well, he's having to work so hard, Mark, isn't he? Because he's having to create his own opportunities nearly at this stage by dropping deep and trying to do something. But yeah, Darren, we've spoke many times on the show about that midfield there, Hallberg and Harry Winks. That's just not going to cut it in the Premier League, sure it's not.
No, absolutely not. And the boy Bentancur is a good footballer, you know. He's a very good footballer. Obviously, Stevie tried to get him in a Villa and it didn't work out for them. They had the first bid knocked back. I think it was 16.5. Spurs have gone up a little more. I think they're going in at about 20, 21 maybe. And they look like they're going to get the deal done. But he's a very, very good player. He's got a great engine on him. He's not necessarily very creative, though. That's the one thing I will say. He almost plays a similar role to the boy Hallberg, who's that kind of sits and screens the back forward and stuff like that. So if you're Spurs and you've got two of those lads sitting in front of a back three and two wing backs who aren't wing backs, Reguilon and maybe Tanganga or somebody like that, like, again, you're devoid of creativity for the guy who needs ammunition. If you get the ammunition there, Kane's got some opportunity to score for you. But if you can't get him the ammo, he's really going to struggle.
Yeah, they've badly missed Son, haven't they?
Yeah, I'll say about Son is, I mean, there's no squad in the league that won't miss Son because he's such a good footballer. You know, I really like the kid. He's been the star at Spurs for me for the last number of years, even bigger than Kane has been. You know, he's been the guy that when they without Kane, you know, Son was able to keep the team ticking over. When they're without Son, Kane can't do it without him.
Yeah. Mark, what did you make of Conte? I mean, obviously he's been pretty vocal in his desire to bring players in. So he's after getting two really good players in there. But I don't know whether he was expecting to lose 4 or 5 on the flip side either, was he?
One that surprised me today was Lo Celso going to Villarreal. I thought they would have hung on to him, to be honest with you. I think he's a decent player. Like handy on the ball and he gets involved. But like I say, I think one of the big misses, like Darren was saying there, Song, like Darren was saying, I totally agree. He keeps things taking over. When Song plays, Kane plays well. And it's vice versa. When Kane wasn't in the team last season, Song was up top where he's not comfortable playing. He didn't look like half the player he was. So, but I don't know. I don't think, like we talked about this on the matchup, I think Conte was sold this dream and it's not working out. Levy's always been a shrewd businessman. That's what he is. He's a businessman. He's not a football man. And that's going to come back to bite him in the arse, basically, I think, because I can't see Conte staying there next season.
Yeah. Interesting. Certainly interesting times.
Just to follow on from what Mark said, the strange thing for me about Lo Celso is, of all the guys, you know, Lo Celso looked like the one at times who could establish himself as part of that team. And from a creative point of view, while they've brought in, the likes of Bentancur to short things up in front of that back four, going forward, they're in bad need of, almost like a number 10 or an 8 who gets on the front foot. And Lo Celso was that player, and they've just let him go to Villarreal now. I think he'll do very, very well at Villarreal. Yes. I really, really do. He'll obviously be eligible for the Champions League now as well. I think he might cause a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, no, that's interesting point, yeah. We're inside the final 10 minutes, lads, so I'm not sure what's going to break or happen in the meantime. But
Dan Burn just signed for Newcastle.
A good signing.
Yeah, I think that is because he's done well with Lewis Dunk, playing with Lewis Dunk. He's kept Duffy out of the team there at Brighton. He's obviously a Newcastle lad, born and bred. Cover there, Lascelles and Shar. The only other cover was Kieran Clark, so I think that's a really decent signing for them.
Hopefully Duffy gets a bit more game time now anyway out of that one.
Yeah, he will.
Kieran Clark shouldn't be allowed into a Premier League stadium, never mind fucking.
Right now, well, next time he's in one, he'd probably have to pay.
Darren, one we spoke about on the transfer show, Aaron Connolly out on loan to Middlesbrough. You were speaking fondly about this.
I just think it's a good move for Connolly. I think it's a move that he needed badly. He was floundering at Brighton there. Couldn't get a run of games because obviously the form wasn't holding up when the opportunity was there to play. Was in and out of the team, then got injured and stuff like that. I think he really needs to get his head down, this kid, if I'm honest. He's got an awful lot of talent, but he's not maybe putting his best foot forward. I think there's a lot of off-field stuff going on, and he needs to just start blanking stuff out and saying, I need to be a bit more single-minded about this. If I'm going to be here for the next 10 to 12 years, I need to build some sort of legacy for myself that, when it comes to a transfer window, I've got teams interested in me up a division rather than going down a division to get game time. That is not what you want if you're Aaron Connolly, who has the ability. We've seen it before at times. He definitely needs to work.
Has to be more clinical, Darren, doesn't he?
It's the words are coming out of my mouth, Mark.
Yeah.
He just needs to work on that finishing. But again, I don't think it's something he can't work on. Like, he's been prolific before at underage and stuff, but he does need to work on that finishing. And maybe just at times in the Premier League, I've looked at him and I've thought he was a bit rushed. He was a bit hurried. He's quite a quick player, and he can get the step on a lot of defenders and stuff like that, But rather than then using that time wisely, it's like he's still trying to rush and get further ahead of them. And you're just thinking, you're far enough ahead. If you're clever and you move the ball across a defender, you don't need to be much quicker because he can't make the tackle anyway, And then you create a little opportunity, or maybe you better the angle for yourself. And instead of coming face on with the keeper, you're coming in slightly from the side of the goal, and it's much easier then pick a spot and put the ball away,
Yeah,
and I think playing the championship physically is going to improve him a hell of a lot. You're playing against some of those teams down there. You're playing Saturday, Tuesday. You're going to know all about it. And I think Chris Wilder is a good manager as well. You seen what he'll take what he done with Billy Sharp at Sheffield United. Yeah. And I think you'll see, like I was saying, he's going to be more clinical, and I think he might even become more of a poacher as well.
Yeah, just a shout out. Sean McKiernan's there in the chat. Shout out to Sean. He's after saying there's more chance of the virus ending than Arsenal signing a player.
I'd say he's probably right there.
Yeah, he's probably spot on. Look, at this time, I'd like to say thank you to all our subscribers on the channel, the Upper Tier. We've just broke through the 200. We're up around the 250 mark now or something like that. So thanks very much to everyone for their support. As always, you know where to find us. Hit that subscribe and bell notification button. And while you're at it, head over to GP Productions Podcast as well, and make sure you give Morris all your support over there. An absolute plethora of talent over there in his catalogue. He says, Morris, tell us who's been on. Give us a feel for who's been on. Carol Baskin has been on from Tiger King, lads.
Everyone from wrestlers to actors to porn stars. Yeah, whoever
in that order.
We talking about your Saturday night in on the podcast.
Whoever I can get. I have some breaking news here, lads. David Goodwillie has signed for Wraith Rovers from Clyde.
Nice.
14 minutes ago.
Excellent stuff.
Love hearing his name on Soccer Saturday.
Lads, I just want to get your thoughts. I mean, you'll obviously know my thoughts on this on Liverpool. I'm not sure. I mean, we know Luis Diaz was going to be their main summer target. They've been very clear in stating that. And I don't know whether they thought they were going to have to throw their cards into that game of poker the other day as quick as they did, with Spurs sniffing around and launching bids. And also there was talk of Man United potentially getting involved as well. Seems an outstanding player without a shadow of a doubt. And also there's talk that they're chasing the boy Fabio Carvalho of Fulham, who looks an outstanding player as well, and there's a deal being ironed out apparently somewhere in the region of maybe 5 to 8 million or something. That Liverpool are looking to push the deal through and obviously loan them back, because they don't want to get into signing them in the summer and then having to go into a tribunal thing and all that kind of mess again in terms of payments and stuff. What's your thoughts so far in Liverpool and the Diaz signing, obviously, Darren?
Yeah, I think it's a great signing for Liverpool. Got to be honest, I know obviously they had Porto in the Champions League group, and you spoke at length about Diaz before both games, and looking forward to seeing him. He came off early in one of the games injured, if I'm right. Is that right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, but really, really good player. Played in the Copa America this year for Colombia, and he lit it up. He really, really did. He was one of the players of the tournament. His goals and assists were crucial in Colombia getting to the latter stages of the competition, but a very, very good footballer. I think for me, it's going to be interesting to see where he fits in. He predominantly played on the left side of that front three, and at the minute, that's a position occupied by Sadio Mane. I think this is a wise move, though, if I'm honest. Like, we spoke about this the other day in the group. I think Mane of late, maybe of the last even 12 months, has looked a little bit off the pace, and looks like a guy that knows he's going to play on a Saturday afternoon. And I think the addition of Jota was an excellent addition, but I think Klopp maybe thought it was going to be, the addition of Jota would be to Mane's would harm Mane, but it hasn't really. It's more harmed Bobby Firmino, hasn't it? Because he's looked, Jota's looked so good going forward that he decided, I'm going to give these three a spin together and see how things work out. And all of a sudden, when Jota ended up working as a 9, it obviously pushed Bobby a bit further down the pecking order. Could we be seeing Salah, Diaz and Jota? Absolutely. But I mean, if that means, that Firmino and Mane become squad players, that really makes that squad an awful lot stronger. And that's something we spoke about recently about, Liverpool maybe not having the numbers in reserve. If you have boys like Firmino and Mane to come off the bench, and maybe the young lad Kay Gordon and stuff like that, that really hammers it out and makes that squad an awful lot thicker with quality going into next season and looking to put together a trophy haul on 4 or 5 fronts.
Yeah, and Harvey Elliott coming back in as well, who was outstanding at the start of the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't sure. I looked at Diaz the other day, and I did a breakdown of some of his stats and stuff like that. I'm not necessarily a stat person, but some of his best work has come from being in behind the front three, just slightly on the left side. So that was an interesting one as well. And I was thinking, there was a lot of talk the other day, this is the guy, what's going to happen to Mane now and all this kind of thing and stuff. And I was thinking, maybe Klopp fancies him maybe on that side of midfield or something like that. And maybe it's not necessarily going to impact on that Mane situation insofar as, okay, it might put a fire under Mane to up his game and certainly up his return. But I'm not sure whether it would be a kind of a direct replacement, or maybe Klopp has a different idea for this player. I'm not too sure. But yeah, certainly interesting.
Carvalho was a good player. I've watched him a lot for Fulham this season. Scott Parker brought him in, kind of played him just behind Mitrovic. But he's only 19, and the runs he makes is like he's been playing the game for 20 years, like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. The space players.
Yeah, the space he creates, the goals he scored, he kind of coming from the edge of the box, kind of getting tap-ins. But it's kind of like, remember, what Raheem Sterling does at City, that the way. But he's definitely one for the future,
You can see why Fulham don't want to lose him.
That's
especially
it.
in the run-in at the moment, because they're on the edge of making it back up again.
They won 3 games in a row, more than 6 goals or more. They were unlucky not to have beaten Blackpool over the weekend. It was a 1-1 draw. They hit the post, they hit the bar. Blackpool's keeper pulled off some fantastic saves. But I've watched him quite a lot this season, and he's won. There's another player, a Blackpool bowler. There's the two of them we've been watching all season, and they've really impressed me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a quick chat about Newcastle, Darren. We have to chat about Newcastle. This was a team we were very excited about in the transfer window, obviously, because we knew they had a few bob, and so did everyone else.
Yeah. If you just give me a sec, I'll go and grab my tea towel and hang on. Yeah, listen, all jokes aside, I think it's been a decent window for Newcastle, if I'm honest. I think Newcastle are about to get very, very direct. Obviously with Chris Wood coming in, with the boy Target coming in down the left and Kieran Trippier down the right, this is going to be balls into the box. This is going to be ammunition, firepower. I think that's why Dan Burns such a good signing, because what he's going to do defensively, but what he's going to do on the offensive as well. When you've got the likes of Target and Trippier putting those balls in, we know last season Target was unbelievable for Villa. Took a lot of free kicks and stuff like that, got involved on the attacking side of the ball. This could be a big tactic for Newcastle now. I see a lot of Newcastle will be, get the ball into that centre midfield slots, get the ball out wide and get balls in the box, and they're just going to bombard teams with Chris Wood, with Dan Bourne, and then try and get a lot of stuff breaking up on the edge of the box, Shelby, Longstaff, guys like that, who can strike a really, really good ball. And obviously you got St. Maximin as well and stuff like that, who's, that trickery he brings to the team.
You robbed him off Mark's tongue there. He was dying to mention him.
Yeah. Were you dying to get him, Marky? I love
him. My boyo.
Is that a case? Is that a case, sorry boys, of Eddie Howe kind of ripping up his own script because of the way he normally plays football, just to go direct? Like, who's making that decision, do you think? Do you think he's making that decision, or do you think someone else is?
Absolutely.
I think it's Eddie. Yeah, I think it's because I think if you look at who he's brought in, like the likes of Trippier, who he had at Burnley with him, the likes of Chris Wood, who he was involved with as well. He knows a lot of these guys, and he knows what their strengths are, and he knows what they'll bring to the team. I was surprised Newcastle didn't get a second striker in. I know they money on the table for the boy Hugo Ekitike from Reims. I think it looked like a done deal at one stage until a number of other suitors came into the market. And all of a sudden then the boy decided, you know what, I think I'm all right to stay here at Reims till the summer because there's a few bigger fish floating around here. And I'll just wait and I'll see what I can pick up in the summer and what I can get a bite out of. But I mean, other than maybe being slightly short of a goal, I think Newcastle are going to be all right. I really do. I think with the addition of the three defenders and the goals hopefully that they'll get from Chris Wood and stuff like that, I think it'll just be enough to keep them up.
Does anyone think that he'll still be the manager this time next year?
Depends whether they stay up or go down.
Yeah, yes. I think he could be. I think he could be because I think a lot of these signings are what you would call or describe as transitional signings. This is the transition to the next stage. I don't think until he gets Newcastle into that top 8, I don't think he's in trouble. I think success could be his bigger problem, because if he does get them higher up the league table and they start looking like a bigger option for players, a more attractive option, I think that's when he's really going to find it a struggle to keep on to it, because that's when they'll decide, you know what, Conte is free, Spurs have just kicked him out, such and such is free. Maybe we could get hold of him, and maybe then they could start eyeing up those sharks they were talking about as well,
Yeah, obviously trying to bring in a better level of player at that stage as well. The question is Eddie Howe going to be attractive enough to bring in that type of quality? And that's where you find the problem. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just going to say, from what he's seen so far with his signings, he's trying to replicate his first season at Bournemouth for me, and his second season where they had Glenn Murray up front and he was a target man, and they had Cook coming up at the back like Dan Byrne will do now as well. He just bulldozed through opposition defenders from set pieces, from crosses. But they had Glenn Murray as that kind of Chris Wood target. And I think that's what he's trying to replicate. If he can do that, keep them up this season, he might go back to playing the football that he was playing with Bournemouth towards the end of his career there,
Yeah, absolutely. Just in the chat there, lads, Ben has jumped onto the chat there saying, yup, the lads. And he's also said, Luis Diaz seems like a great player. 16 goals and 8 assists, lads, and it's only January. So I'm probably going to have to put in an order for a few new jerseys with Diaz on the back of it by the sounds of that. Shout out to Ben. Thanks for jumping on, obviously, Ben.
How are you, Ben? Get to bed, will you?
Ben took a break from the porn so he could come and have a little chat.
Taking a break from the study. The mocks are next week, baby.
He heard Morris talking about porn stars there, and he said, I'll jump onto this chat.
Morris, you might have just got a new subscriber there, did you?
Thanks, Ben.
Possibly.
He's gone through 2 banjo straps tonight, so he's waiting to throw in.
Tell you.
Wow.
Jesus, going in hard on poor Ben. Not here to defend himself.
It's after 11. He can say those kind of things. The watershed is gone, lads.
Absolutely.
Lads, we have to talk about Christian Eriksen to Brentford. When I heard this being finalised today and I seen them printing the jerseys and the excitement in the Brentford fans, and I don't know about you guys, but when you're a football fan as well as a fan of your own team, kind of when you see Brentford fans excited, it gets you excited and brings a smile to your face, doesn't it? Because you know, they really have something to hang on to and something to shout about. They got the nice stadium, they're great fans and all that kind of thing. But, you know, I was kind of a little bit questionable on this one because we obviously remember the images of everything that happened, you know, in the tournament and stuff like that. And I was thinking about it. But then I looked at it today and I was thinking, look, they've done their due diligence. There's obviously been medicals and there's advancements and stuff like that. And, you know, if there was any sort of major issues there, there'd be trouble over getting insurance and all that kind of thing at the club level now. So they've obviously done all that work. But it's great to have him back in the Prem, isn't he? He's a heck of a player. And the thoughts of him and Ivan Toney linking up is going to be mouth-watering for Brentford fans, isn't it?
Tony's in the doghouse a little bit though at the moment. Did you see that?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. He was on holiday there with, I don't know if it's his girlfriend, someone anyway, and she took a video of him and he goes, "Oh, fuck Brentford." So yeah. But on the Eriksen thing, was there not a thing where he wasn't medically cleared to play in Italy, but he can play in England? Was that?
There's a difference in the rules.
Yeah, that's dodgy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the issue in Italy was the fact they couldn't get insurance, wasn't it? There was an issue with getting insurance in relation to him playing, and that's what they said the problem mainly was, as far as I know. But look, I'm sure. Look, Brentford on the Premier League, they do due diligence on this stuff all the time. You know, the last thing they want is a reoccurrence of that situation on their watch. You know, so
yeah.
But yeah, I think he'll do really well at Brentford. I think he'll fit in there. I think Ivan Toney probably just has to apologise and sort that out. But I think he'll, unless he was looking for a move, maybe he wants to go back to Newcastle for that good money, maybe, or something. Or I know Liverpool were very interested in him as well.
Or Arsenal.
Oh yeah, a bit late now.
Windows closed, markets too late.
They could blame the fax machine or something and just say it never went through. Oh wait, has that happened before?
I believe it has.
Absolutely.
No, but with Eriksen, we were sitting here watching it earlier on. My wife Yvonne even said it was like your man that had the heart attack. We said, yeah. She said, Jesus, great to see him back. And then it's funny, they turned the jersey around and it said Hollywood Bets. And then you just think to yourself, it'd make a great Hollywood film, wouldn't it? Like the way he's come back. But I wish him all the best of luck, and I love watching Brentford play anyway.
It'd be great.
But no, I love Brentford's style, and I think he'll only add to that as well. So I think it's a great signing for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick chat. Man City. I know you boys. There was talk that United had spoke to Julian Alvarez, or there'd been a conversation with an agent or a family member or whatever it was. But it looks like Man City now have sealed the deal with him. £14 million, lads. An absolute snip for this guy. Looks an outstanding player. He's going back on loan to River Plate until the end of the season. But talking about City, I mean, there they are going in. And everyone always talks about City, these £100 million players and £70 million players and stuff like that. This guy's 14 million. Which seems to be an absolute snip looking at his highlight reel. And I know the highlight reels can look amazing and stuff like that and not always be the case. But at 14 million. And then obviously with Ferran Torres going out, I think he went out, 46.3 million. So this must be nearly one of the first windows where City have done business and made a profit, not a deficit.
Well, how much went to his family?
That doesn't count. First class tickets on Etihad Airways for life.
No Ryanair for them, huh?
Darren's chomping at the bit here. Look, he's bitter over Alvarez going to the rivals. Go on, say it.
Is this called, I'm just going to say, is this called balancing the books? Is this what we're seeing from Man City, you know?
What a good accountant always does.
And I think, you know, obviously City have been in trouble before with this, with the financial fair play and stuff. I think this is a really, really clever move from City. Through now, you know, didn't seem to be a whole lot of pressure from UEFA or from FIFA to do this. They've kind of set the ball rolling themselves, and it makes it look like they're trying to get things back on side. And it'll probably buy them a bit of space in the summer. You know, when they go out and they decide Pep's going to make one of those statements about how we signed £100 million player that only cost us 40 because of the 60 we saved, and he'd make an awful maths teacher. But it's you know, it's space saving, and it's he's been economical with the numbers. It's very, very clever. And while you're 6 points clear at the top, no better time to do it.
I think they got a bit of a scare as well, didn't they, with the Champions League? Because they really, you know how desperate they are to win that. They want that more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a difficult situation for them as well, isn't it? When you think about their squad and their bench, their full squad. Like there's world-class players throughout it, even that don't even step onto the pitch at times. So it's an interesting one for them going into a transfer window, isn't it? Like they don't really have massive needs or anything like that. You know what I mean? They've got nearly second players in every position, really, that would walk into most Premier League teams, you know?
I don't think they've had a striker from Argentina before, have they?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you not reckon, no?
Could be the first, I don't know. Go ahead, Darren. What were you going to say? Sorry.
The one thing I will say, and I don't know whether, you know, it's just something that's happening, but it seems to be like every time City are in for a player, United are in, or when United are in for a player, City are in. Like, this is the fourth or fifth time this has happened, you know, where United were speaking to Alvarez, and all of a sudden City have done the deal. City were in for Ronaldo. United did the deal. City were in for Maguire. United did the deal. City were in for Fred. United did the deal. Is this lazy
scouting
recruitment? I don't know. I just think it's strange when we've seen, you know, so many players linked with the opposition, your nearest and dearest, so to speak, and then they end up with the opposition, and you're just going, I thought the ball was rolling there. You know, it's just strange. Maybe it's
been happening for a few years though, Darren. Remember, company's been linked with us, Robinho, and they've gone to City and vice versa. So it is. I agree. It's probably bleeding lazy scouting or just bleeding tabloid, linking agents, making phone calls to tabloids and stuff like that. But I think he'd be a great sign. I think I read a stat: 36 goals and 25 assists or something last season, was it? In all competitions, like. Yeah,
something. So his stats are crazy. Again, it's hard to read into them in the South American League, but still, you have to go out there and perform and put those stats together, you know. So, but yeah, it was a weird one as well, and it's a weird one when you see them getting them over the line for 14 million. Now I know the 14 million. Who knows? Will it be 40 million? Is it 40 million mark?
That's just the tip of the iceberg, like.
Yeah, potentially, you know. But I just wonder if that's the case. He would have been a player that United should be getting over the line, isn't he?
Certainly a player we should have been interested in, you know. If we're to believe the newspapers, we were interested in him. But it's possibly another battle we've lost out on the City, unfortunately. They're top of the table. They're a much better prospect than we are at the minute. You know, they've got a much better team. They've got a much better manager. You know, like, if I'm Julian Alvarez, and somebody comes and says, you can have option A or you can have option B, which one do you want? Even as a United fan, that'd be a difficult decision to make, you know what I mean? Like, let's be honest here. City are such an attractive prospect at the minute. Free scoring, you know, superb football. I don't see a better team on the planet for football. Their football is just outrageous, you know? And they're only getting better, which is the scary thing. I still don't think we've seen the best of Phil Foden and Jack Grealish together yet. I think when they get a focal point up top, we've mentioned it before. The only way I thought City wouldn't win the league this season was if they were short of goals. I did think it might happen. At the minute, it's not happening for them. But I mean, you know, if you add in an addition of a striker in the summer, which I still think they'll go I think they'll go into the market in the summer for a striker. I don't think Alvarez is going to be their first choice anytime soon. I think he's a prospect, and he's someone that they look at in the next couple of years, and in cup games and in games that are, when they're 4-0 up against Norwich, they can bring him off the bench and get him a bit of experience, But I still think they'll go into the market for a striker, and I think that's the scary thing for United and for the rest of the league, that they could actually keep getting better, City.
I thought they'd come a little bit unstuck this year without a striker. That's what I was saying at the start of the year, but how wrong was I? Goals coming from everywhere.
No, I'd agree with you, Morris. I thought there was going to be a problem now, I have to say. I just thought when they missed out on Kane, I thought, that might be the glimmer of hope for the rest of us.
Yeah.
But we proved to be wrong. Guardiola and his setup and his team and his tactics have just blown it out of the absolute water.
Yeah, I think when you have a team at the level that they're at, when you have such a good defence as well and such a good midfield and such strong players all over the park, you can play in a way where you're not really exposed in terms of a striker, because you're not going to give up a lot of goals. So you don't necessarily, and you've seen with City this year as well, it's only on a couple of occasions they've gone out and actually blasted teams. A lot of teams, and we spoke about it, Darren, on the show numerous times, how City have just gone out with a certain work ethic to get the job done. And you've seen these 2-1s and 3-2s or 1-0s or whatever it is. So they haven't necessarily been prolific in terms of not having a striker and stuff like that, but they don't give up a whole lot either as well. So, like if you go a goal down or whatever, you have a tough task ahead of you,
I'll pay them a very backhanded compliment, and they're a very sort of Alex Ferguson-esque side almost, where they just do enough to get over the finish line every time. And when they're huffing and puffing and they're just about ready to blow the house down, you can feel it coming, and you kind of think they're going to get one here, aren't they? We look at the game away at Arsenal and stuff like that, and you just think they're going to score here, and they do. And then there's a couple of weeks later and you think they're going to score here, and they do. And there's, it's obviously something that's instilled in them from Guardiola and stuff like that. We play for 96, 98 minutes, whatever is on that clock, and there's no giving up, and we fight till the last whistle, which is, it's unbelievable that he can get that out of the lads, but it really does. It's the team. Those victories late on in game, the 3 points is one thing, but that feeling, that winning feeling, it's a habit. And when you can create that habit, that's when you're really on the right path.
Yeah, it's an ambition and a desire to constantly win, isn't it? At whatever cost it takes and stuff like that. It's really hard to draw them back in. I know we'll give it a bit of a bash this season, but I wouldn't be overly confident if it's doing it. I don't see us running out the season on such a run and them not, although they slipped up against Southampton and they opened the door a little bit for us.
It's not quite done yet. There's a little wiggle room still there, but Liverpool are kind of going to have to win nearly every game now, aren't they?
That's what I mean, Morris. When I look at it, I think we're more likely maybe to give up a draw or give up a result than they are.
Yeah.
But we'll see. You never know what might happen. I mean, the Champions League is coming around. Diaz is coming in. The boys will be coming back from the AFCON. They seem to have performed well out there. So it'll be interesting to see how they come back and what way we approach it. But look, if you still have a card in the game, you keep on playing, don't you? And that's the way it is. I suppose let's finish up and have a quick chat. Let's talk, obviously, top 4 prospects. I know, Darren, you've spoken that you think it's a 2-position race in terms of 4th and 3rd. You don't think Chelsea are out of sight yet, and you think they could come back into it a little bit. Yeah. I mean, what do you think? You still firmly, now that we know the transfer window shut, so we now know who we have. So this is it. So we know there's United, we know there's Arsenal, West Ham and Spurs. And obviously Chelsea is in that mix, kind of.
Yeah, I suppose a couple of weeks ago on the mashup, I pushed West Ham and Arsenal out the door maybe 2 weeks ago, just because I felt like both of them are a little bit goal shy at times. I think obviously the Aubameyang thing is what's holding Arsenal back, because I think they're creating a really good squad there. Arteta is, there's a lot of young, gifted footballers at the club, and I think this is the right decision for Arsenal Football Club is to see Aubameyang leave and to try and instill, a level of professionalism with the players that they have there, that there's an acceptance of how they're going to carry themselves when they're playing for the football club, and I think that's an important lesson for the younger guys. And seeing somebody like Aubameyang, being let go maybe to Barcelona. Okay, on one hand, he's on his way to Barcelona, but on the other hand, what he was doing and how he was, behaving wasn't acceptable at this football club. So it's not acceptable for him. It's not acceptable for us. That's a big statement. It's a huge statement. One which I think, will work in Arsenal's favour in the next couple of years. With the Odegaards, with the Smith Rowes, with the Sakas, with the Martinellis, with the Charlie Patinos, a lot of those guys. But I think, back to the top four, I think it's 2 from 3. I think it's Chelsea, Spurs and United vying for that third and fourth spot. I think Liverpool and City are stitched up for 1 and 2. I think Arsenal and West Ham I think they're just going to drop enough points to make it a little bit easier for United and Spurs. Spurs are the big danger for United. I mean, Chelsea already have that little bit of a lead. So, I mean, if you're going in there at the minute, you're probably saying fourth spot's the best we can hope for. But I still think Chelsea have a couple of slip-ups in them. I wouldn't be surprised if we got closer to them towards the end of the season. I think the Spurs is going to be the big one. If the 2 boys come in and hit the ground running, Spurs might do enough to get over the line. But in saying that, I think if we look since Conte came in, he hasn't reinvented the wheel just yet at Spurs. I think it's looking like a slightly slower burn. And I think United have just started to turn a corner slightly under Ralph. We look an awful lot better at the back. We're a lot tighter. We're not coughing up as many goals. And we haven't necessarily hit our straps for scoring goals. And I think if we do, we could thump a couple of teams, And I think, again, if we can get that confidence building, I'm going to say it's going to be City, Liverpool, Chelsea and United in that order. But I'm open to suggestion.
Mark?
Yeah, I'd agree with Darren. The one thing I would say is I think Arsenal are going to give a bit of a surge between now and the end of the season. And the reason for that, I think, because they're not in Europe. They're out of the FA Cup. They're going to concentrate all on it. I think you've seen with the performance against City there a few weeks ago, I think they played really well. They were unlucky with the sending off. I think the sending off just turned the game on its head. Yeah. So I do think they have the players there. The only thing I will question is strength and depth, as Morris alluded to at the start of the program there. But I do think they'll give it a good shout between now and then. But I'm going for City, Liverpool, United, Chelsea.
Morris?
I think it'll be City, Liverpool, obviously. I don't know what order, but it's looking like City will win it. And then Chelsea and Tottenham, I think.
You think Tottenham will creep into the top 4?
Yeah, I think just with Conte there, I just think that they'll win games ugly and they'll just pick up some points. And I think it's going to be tight, though. It's hard to know. We see some good signs with Ralph there with Man United, but they're not blowing anyone away. Like, they're kind of just getting over the line as well. So I think I still think what Darren said, like a third could be up for grabs as well. Like, it wouldn't totally shock me if it was Tottenham and Man United and Chelsea slipped out of it altogether. But it'd take a serious run at the same time.
That'd be shocking, wouldn't it, on Tuchel and Chelsea if that was to happen?
Morris will just unsubscribe to your channel now.
Yeah. he'll probably get Tuchel will get the sack if that happens.
Darren is still subscribed, but not under Darren. It's under his alter ego. He's still in there, lads. Yeah, I don't know. I can't figure it out. I think you're right in terms of City and Liverpool. I'm not sure whether Chelsea will slip back that far. Certainly, I don't think they'll slip back as far as 5th. I'd be surprised if they do. I don't know whether I'm counting the Hammers out that easy. Yeah,
14's feelings. That's all.
No, but I'm not counting the Hammers out either. Yeah, I think West Ham. I think West Ham will still
using a Zoom, so we have to be nice.
Chelsea will win it. Chelsea will win it.
Yeah, no, I think West Ham still might have a part to play in this. I'm hoping that we go into kind of the last couple of weeks and that third and fourth spot are really, really tight between 3, 4, 5 teams. Maybe that'd be really cool to see who has the mettle to see it out.
Don't forget, the last day of the season, United have Chelsea at home at Old Trafford.
Can you imagine that? My God.
I just think with West Ham, Antonio hasn't kickstarted this season yet. He might do over the next few weeks. They've been relying on Bowen a lot this season for goals coming from midfield. But do they have like Arsenal, do they have the strength and depth to do it between now and May? I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I just like the idea of them still being involved. I like the idea of a team kind of out of the blue that gets into the mix a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think Moyes is doing a fabulous job there as well.
Absolutely.
As well.
Rejuvenated his career there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And well deserved as well, because the previous two we kind of got a raw deal, didn't he? Just putting that out there. Well, lads, listen, it's been a pleasure having you on again for another live one, another deadline day gone by. Safe to say the January one kind of delivered for us, Darren, didn't it? We weren't too skeptical. We wouldn't be big fans of the January transfer window, but certainly this one has provided a lot of fun over the last 4 weeks, and we've certainly enjoyed it. Speculating about Newcastle and our own teams and stuff like that.
Kept us in content, didn't it?
Kept everyone else in content as well, not just us.
Ben Hogan has just re-signed for Greystones. That's just breaking news there on Sky Sports News.
Me being his age and I'm getting 20%, that's all good.
The transfer fee is 7 boxes of Johnny's and a bottle of vodka.
Well, listen, man, it's been a pleasure. As always, before you viewers go, always drop over there and drop a subscribe and hit that bell notification button. You'll also get us out on Twitter at _upper_tier. You'll find audio versions of the show on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Darren, where else are we? Show that good watch. We're out on TikTok having a lot of fun out there. The boys are getting blasted out there by lads on TikTok for their views, mainly to do with hairstyles and goal scoring capabilities and various other issues like that.
The 40-year-old virgin who questioned my opinion on something last week. I'll find out who you are behind that screen, you little swine.
He's a Jack Harrison fan. No more to be said.
George Harrison.
Morris, before we go, tell people, where do they find you? What's coming up? Anything interesting coming through?
Let me see. Yeah, you can just search a Cheap Heat Productions podcast. I'm booked up for the next couple of months till me and you hit the States for a lot of drink. And you never know who's going to show up on the old podcast every week. So if you want to go over and check it out.
God knows what bar we could end up in Dallas, but no doubt you'll have your music with you anyway and be DJing, because we're not planning on paying when we get over there. We want it all for free. Till next time, man, an absolute pleasure.